welcome, Joe. How you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Excellent, excellent. It's another beautiful day in paradise, and another day to wake up breathing and smiling. And spring in the Southwest could be more beautiful.
Well, I'm not in the Southwest, but I agree.
So, I'd like to welcome our viewers and listeners to another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And this week's subject is going to be on potential. The potential for what, you ask? Well, that's just it. It is the potential. That's the topic, and
Right.
and our potential. Well, not necessarily my potential or Joe's potential, but you, the viewer and listeners' potential.
Right.
So, we Joe and I were just talking about this before we started the recording the podcast, and we're like, everyone has potential. It's just whether they realize that potential or when they realize
Right.
that they
Yeah.
have potential, and that potential can materialize in many different forms. So, with that little brief lead in, Dr. Joe Hamlet, would you like to kick
Yes.
us off?
Dr. Dave Peltz. Yeah. So, we talk about potential and I'm going to continue to, reflect back on my journey because for me, um, I had potential, but didn't know it, didn't realize it.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until, went back to school and opened my mind to the possibilities. And that's when I realized I had the potential to do other things, to be better. And so, um, you know, growing up, I probably had the potential, but didn't recognize it. And I'll go back to my childhood when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And, I thought I was going to be Dr. J. Every time the 76ers played and Dr. J played, I'd go after the game, I'd run out in the backyard and I'd try and do everything I just saw him do. And, the one thing that happened to me was the fact that I stopped growing. And so I didn't grow to 6'6" like I thought, everybody thought I was going to grow. And so I really lost sight of that dream of being an NBA player. And it wasn't until much later in life, probably 10 years later from that time, that I realized I actually had the potential to be a really good basketball player. I was so
Mhm.
focused on being as tall and being just like Dr. J, rather than capitalizing on my own potential and my ability to do things. And so that's what happens to a lot of us, is that we have this potential, and either we don't recognize it or we just let it go to the wayside. And so when I went back to school at the age of 40, I realized I had the potential to do other things. And so that's, with that now in my mind at that time, I start looking at other opportunities to display that potential, becoming a doctor, becoming, an author, reaching the highest level in the military, all those things. I realized I had the potential to do those things, to start a
Mhm.
business, start multiple businesses. Uh, I realized I had the potential to do those things. And even today, as a podcast host or co-host, still realizing my potential,
Mhm.
and now understanding that I had the potential to do those other things, that is going to continue to fuel me forward. But, like I mentioned before, a lot of us have this potential in us. Sometimes people can help us with that. But oftentimes it takes you realizing it yourself before it actually makes sense or means something. Because I had people back then telling me, hey, you're good at this, you're good at that. But until you accept that or realize it or recognize it in yourself, then it's going to be a challenge for you to start to display those potential or that potential or those abilities. So that's kind of why I'd like to start or to reference this topic, potential. Everybody has it.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you have a lot to
Yeah,
follow up
and
on.
Joe, you said something that really struck me, because you and I have such similar backgrounds growing up, and military and career wise. You said something that sometimes other people, and oftentimes other people see potential in others, or I should say to clarify that people see potential in others
Mhm.
that those individuals don't see in themselves.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and a lot of times that comes from our parents when we're young. They see our potential, but being young, we don't have that piece of self-actualization yet.
Well, think about this
Sometimes,
too, though.
sometimes we don't.
Part of it, as kids, we think our parents, we don't necessarily believe them in a lot of
Right,
a lot
right,
of
right. It's like,
times
oh, they
because
love me. They're going to tell me whatever,
exactly.
to make me
So
happy. But sometimes they do see things in us that
you're
we
right.
don't see ourselves.
You're right.
And, my parents always believed in me, but I didn't believe in myself. And I didn't understand the potential that they saw. And even in high school, and I did, the caveat is I did well in my art classes in high school,
Right. Right.
but they saw more potential. And my teacher saw more potential in me than I saw in myself. And going into the military helped me understand what that potential looks like or looked like. I also found my own potential with passions and things that I enjoy doing
Right.
after that. Like, I learned I had the potential to learn how to, you know, do projects around the house, and work on my car and change the oil and learn computers and, learn how to learn. Believe it or not,
Right.
learning how to learn is a skill set, and learning how to, take notes and pass tests and pass courses and trainings. There was a lot more potential in me than I realized when I was younger. But as I became older, I started to recognize that potential and started to really embrace what I'm capable of. And to
Right.
the point that you started out with, we all have potential. We just need to accept that we have that potential and understand how that potential is going to manifest itself. It doesn't mean that you're going to be, you know, you know, ultra rich or a famous movie star or a famous athlete or artist or, news commentator or, you know, blogger or social media, icon. That doesn't necessarily equal potential. The potential is just being able to do something that you didn't believe that you could do or you didn't
Right.
know you could do. And we're really, all of us have the potential to do whatever we want. It's just to what degree and what level.
Right.
So when when I realized that I had the potential to actually, I'm gonna use air quotes for our listeners, be smart, in school, and I started applying myself, I realized, wow, if I can do this, I can do anything. And I'll go into my bachelor's degree, my undergraduate degree first, because that's really where I had my kind of epiphany aha moments. Because and I need to correct myself. The aha moment is not necessarily true because it was planned. It was a deliberate effort to learn. So, I
Right.
learned, but I, I did not, when I was in elementary school and high school, I did okay in math. In algebra, I did not do well in algebra. Geometry, I did great. Trigonometry, don't even go there. That was a very
Right.
short-lived experience. It was basically A, B, C, D, F the first 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And it was like, well, that says a lot about that. So like some people that are out there in the world, some people like myself feared math. So I waited to that was the last two classes I had to take was college math. And it was basic math through, I think it was algebra through trigonometry. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, just totally afraid of it. I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That wasn't the tough part. I can do fractions and decimals, but the whole, extending beyond that, I was terrified of. And I don't mean like nightmare terrified, but it was a
Right.
fear because I didn't realize I had the potential. I was so afraid of math, Joe, that I got the college textbook for that course prior to taking it because those were the last two classes. And I took 2 months and read that book cover to cover. I did all the exercises. I checked my answers in the back of the book. And I was like, okay, I'm going to test out of this. They have a thing called CLEP
Okay.
testing, college
Right.
level
Yeah.
examinations. And you can, for some lower division classes, you can, if you test
Yep.
high enough, you don't have to take it, you get college credit. I
Yep.
was so afraid of taking that math class. I read that college textbook and I took that test and I missed it by 2 points.
Wow.
And I remember walking out of the examination room, my head was low, and I was like, oh my God, I just wasted 2 months. I studied my ass off. I took the test and I missed it by 2 points. Now I have to take the classes or wait 6 months to retest. And
Right.
I was like, well, I can't wait 6 months to retest. I have to take this class. And as I walked out of the building, and I can remember this almost like it was yesterday, I walked out of that building, my head was low. I saw a colleague and they're like, how'd you do? I was like, I failed it, man. I failed that test. And they're like, but how much? And I said, 2 points. Now I have to take college math. And they're like, dude, you missed it by 2 points. I was like, yeah, I missed it by 2 points. And then there was that moment. I missed it by 2 points.
Right.
I missed it by just 2 points. And then I went into that college math course and I did really well in it because I had taught myself college math on my own. I had I found the potential
Right.
that
Right.
if I applied myself, I could do anything. And that's
Right.
kind of a weird moment to share over a math class. But that was really when my true realization of what I could do really gave me that spark.
So think back to one of the comments I made, and you just validated that point that I made, was the fact that somebody else saw that potential, because for you, you didn't realize it. They were like, man, that's huge. And it goes back to the other point I made, was it's that self-realization that you can achieve it, or that you can do it. So yeah, those stories that story you just said, actually touched on both of those 2 points. So yeah, that's really what it comes down to, that realization. Because people can tell you all day, people can, encourage you and things like that. It's not until you accept it yourself, or you realize it yourself, that it becomes a reality. And so a lot of us struggle through that for a lot of years, a long time, before we realize that we have the potential to be great. So that's what I always tell people, that we all are capable of great things. It's just that once you realize, and those people that are successful are those people that recognize it at a younger age, or sooner rather than later. Like in our case, I'm a 40-year-old that had different successes throughout my life, but it wasn't until I accepted it and realized, you're right. Yeah, I do have the potential to be great. And that's why I say I can't turn that off now. I can't turn that
Mhm.
switch off, because I know, and I've made this comment before, and I still say it a lot of times, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, because
Right.
that's the case. Like you said, you apply enough time and effort and energy to something, then you can be good at it. So that's why I don't discount any experience I have or anything I'm doing, is because I don't know what that's going to lead to. And so, but it's still that self-realization that if I apply enough time, energy to that particular thing, I can be really good at it. And
Mhm.
and again, that's what I try and let people know when we first start having conversations about things. And I ask them, what do you enjoy doing? What are you passionate about? And then that's when that light bulb or aha moment hits them.
Mhm.
Wow, you're right. You have to, kind of like our parents did, we have to add that exuberant, encouragement, and hey, you did a great job, just like you did when your kids were little. It's the same, almost sometimes the same energy you have to, relate to other people, so that they get it and,
Sure.
and realize. And that's kind of the expression you have when, your colleague said, hey, but you only missed it by two. Encouragement of, man, that's a great thing. And that helps people with that realization that, yeah, you're right. That was a great thing.
Yeah.
So,
And to your point, going back to the peer piece, you know, listen to your peers and your friends, and
right,
and don't discount them when they say, wow, you're really good at that. Have you considered pursuing that a little bit more? They're seeing potential and opportunity for you to do
right.
something that you enjoy or that you're possibly good at. Don't discount that. And I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, get
right,
out of here. Yeah, stop it now. You're just teasing. It's not funny, and it's like, but listen to them, because there's some truth to that. They see something
right.
in you that you may not see in yourself, that you
Exactly.
may not
Yeah,
have even considered. You think it's just something, well, I do it to pass the time, or I
right, right,
as it was a fluke. Well, maybe it's not. And if they see potential and recognize that, then that should be our moment of pause and our wake up call, if you will, to say, wow, if someone else sees that potential and they're genuine about it, about their
right, right,
comments, then that's an opportunity in that moment to embrace that and think about what you're going to do with that. Because that potential, again, doesn't have to be just for work. It can be for personal enjoyment. And once you realize that you have the potential to accomplish something that has previously challenged you, once you have that moment, you realize you have the potential to do anything you want. It's then
right,
becomes not if you have the potential, it's how do you want to apply that potential and what do you want to apply that potential towards. That's really what it comes down to. And to your point, some people realize that and have that realization when they're much younger, in their maybe elementary school or junior high or high school, or in their late teens or early 20s. And some people, for like you and I, who've taken the long scenic
right,
route, we didn't realize that till we were in our 30s or our 40s, but we all always have potential. It's
right,
just, when do we realize it? When do we accept that realization? And when do we start acting upon that, our potential? I
right,
could be a rocket scientist. I know I have the potential to do that. I choose not to, because I don't want to. I don't want to take the time to do that.
right, right,
But doing tile and painting and drawing, yeah, I'm embracing that. I know I have the potential to do that too, and that's something I enjoy more than rocket science.
right, right, right.
So what sparks your fire? What lights that flame that really gets you going? And that's what we're looking for. When we talk about potential, it's not that spark, it's that moment when you accept that realization that everyone else or
Right.
somebody else sees in you.
Yep.
Then that's when you actually have potential, and then the world opens up, whether it's for
Exactly.
hobbies, enjoyment,
Exactly.
personal, professional development, family, friends,
Yep.
whatever. That you can do anything you set your mind to doing. It then becomes a what at that point.
Absolutely. And so I'll go back to, and I think I mentioned this on a couple episodes before, or previous episode, the fact that, my wife helped me realize or recognize the fact that I'm a nerd, because for so many years, and even after I, started recognizing I had the potential to do great things, or to be better, back in when I was 40 in 2005, it still took, me after finishing my doctorate degree. And then my wife helped me realize I was a nerd, and she was absolutely correct. And so I think about all that time, that I gave away because I did not want to accept the fact, the truth that I was a nerd. And I did that reflection back to, in elementary school, in high school, and all the things I was able to do back then, but discounted it or pushed it aside
Yeah.
because I wanted to be a cool kid instead of embracing, my nerdness. The person that, could have done different things, but I chose not to, embrace that. And not that I discount my journey that I've had to this point, but I see that things could have been different, if I would have recognized or, embraced who I really was. And so
Mhm.
it still took, till I was 50 years old or almost 50 years old when my wife had to help me with that realization. So, like I
Right.
say, even though I was already in the mindset of opening my mind to the possibilities, I had not really uh, truly accepted who I was until that point. And now I do embrace who I am. And like I said, I wish I would have embraced that. And so when I've talked to, people, they've come to me and asked me different things. And I told them, or I tell them, hey, embrace who you really are. I mean, you'll go much further. And it goes back to, like you said, people that, recognize that talent in elementary and in high school or in their early 20s or whatever. And I tell them, imagine how far you could go if you embrace that, if you
Mhm.
start living that truth, today versus, in my case, until your 40s and 50. And then you start to live that, what you're supposed to be doing in that potential. And so I just imagine for myself what that would have looked like, if I was 18 or 17 and started living that truth back then.
Yeah.
So
And to your point, it's never too late. It really isn't.
no, no,
It's like
no.
it's like some of the other topics we've talked about, like lifelong learning, and perspective, and all those other topics that we've talked about. You know, it's never too late. When I
No,
went to
no.
college, even in my undergraduate program, there were people in their 60s in it, and
Oh, oh yeah, absolutely.
attending their bachelor's degree, and
Yep, yep,
and even into their 70s in some case for their master's
yep,
degree and doctorate degrees. It's never too late
yep.
to accept the potential that we have. I mean, some of the greatest artists and scholars and entertainers that we have didn't realize or accept their potential until later in life, or they accepted it earlier in life, but it took some time for it to be recognized. And you don't
Right.
have to be
Yep.
that super popular, on every TV station type um, potential. It can just be the potential to overcome a personal challenge.
Right. Right.
And that could be and we can even tie that into professional challenges at work. Like maybe there's something at work that's really challenging you and you're just like, well, I can't do that. I can't learn this. Well, you can. You just need to accept that you have the potential to do anything you put your mind to.
Yep.
And that self-reflection, like you mentioned, is critical because you have to get over the naysaying that you've told yourself over the years. Well, I
Yep.
can't learn that. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can. We all have the potential to do anything we want. Now, it
Right.
may not be to the degree or level or fame of some people, but we have the potential to do these things. And there may be certain limitations that we have to deal with and certain challenges. We may have to do it slightly different, but we
Right.
can accomplish whatever we want to do.
Yep.
Again, we all have that potential.
Right. Yeah. I just and that's what's fun. I was kind of smiling there when you're talking about that because I think back again to when I was the 13, 14-year-old kid that thought he was going to be this NBA player. And I kind of reflect now that, you talked about there'd probably be some challenges and things you probably wouldn't be able to do. And that's the case for me right now.
Mhm.
We say it's never too late, but to some point,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, there may
some
be some
things,
limitations, but the
some
potential is
limitations
still
that
there.
but, to that point though, at the same time, maybe I can't play like an NBA player, but I can coach. I can do some other things
Sure.
that could, still help me live my dream or my passion, but with basketball, but it may
And
be in a different capacity
there you
or
go,
in a
in a
different
slightly different
arena.
way. Yeah,
Right,
maybe it's not you playing at the NBA level. Maybe it's you coaching some people
right,
or
right,
younger people that actually do carry that experience into an NBA career. And you had
right,
a piece and a role in that. And that's a very important point to bring up. Maybe our potential is not necessarily us becoming that
right,
billionaire tech, movie star, musician, painter, whatever. Maybe it's our purpose and our potential manifests itself in a different way, something that we
right,
didn't even expect, that we're able to pay it forward or give back or develop other people. Maybe that's where one of our potentials resides, that maybe
Right.
we, maybe well, I know there's no maybe about it. I can dribble if I really think about that ball. It's just like, it's like my head's going up and down. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. But maybe that's not where my potential resides. Maybe it
Right.
is in
Right.
that coaching piece. And maybe it's just coaching little people, the kids that are out there that are just like, they want to learn how to dribble a basketball. Well, I can dribble a air quotes for our listener, I can dribble a basketball probably as I'm dribbling down my own chest because I'm, just thinking so hard about dribbling basketball. But the potential is there for me to teach others or to
Right.
share my
Right. Right.
experiences. And that's really what you and I have been doing. We've been sharing our experiences for the last, how many episodes with other people to help
Right.
them
Yep.
understand their potential on many
Yep.
different levels, whether it's education, whether it's career, whether it's personal motivation, networking, what have you. We all have the potential to help other people and ourselves. The end result may look slightly different than what we had anticipated or hoped or wanted, but we still have that potential to have an impact on ourselves and others in positive ways.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's very important. Like you said, that's been my passion, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, is helping others realize their potential. I mean, that's the key. Like I say, I may not
Sure,
be
absolutely.
doing those things that, back in the day I might have been able to be successful at, but that still doesn't mean that it's over. I can help others or assist others to get to that certain level. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I've been embracing, the fact that most of us don't understand we have the potential. So
Mm-hmm.
now, one of my passions is helping others find their own potential. And
Yep.
so for me, that's just as much satisfaction as me recognizing my own, potential. And so for me, it's that light bulb when for people, when it goes off in their head and they get that realization, or they send you an email saying, man, you're right, or man, I did this and this is what
Mm-hmm.
happened. For me now, that's the satisfaction, that's the success for me, is seeing others realize their potential. Because once you find it, or once you feel it, you don't want it to stop. And
Right.
so that's what it's been for me, and that's why I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm going to continue to push myself, to discover different things, to try different things, to figure out different things, because I know I have the potential to do it. And you made that comment that we all have the potential to be great. It's just how much time and effort and energy do we want to
Sure.
put into it. Like you said,
Mm.
you could be a rocket scientist, but you don't choose to do that.
Right.
And so that's really what it comes down to. Now you pick and choose, which things you want to pursue, which things you want to, put time and energy into. So that's what's cool about realizing or recognizing you have the potential to be great.
Yeah.
Like we said in the past, now you can you can draw your own blueprint. You can define what that looks like for you, because you
Yeah.
recognize it. And that's the key, is you take your own life back. You
Mm-hmm.
control your destiny. Yeah, again, you're still going to run into obstacles and those things that are going to, maybe hinder you a little bit. But again, if you, apply as much time and energy toward that goal, you're going to be successful, whatever
Yeah.
that you defined as being success. So, um, it's all these things we've been talking about over the past weeks. All this is encompassing everything we talked about, all relates to one another.
Mm-hmm.
The goal setting, like you said, the perspective, motivation, all these things get you to this point, or to this level.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I'll just throw in a couple of final closing thoughts while we wrap up here. And once you realize and have that moment of realization and acceptance that you have the potential to do whatever you want, the one of the beautiful pieces that comes out of that is the inspiration to start exploring other opportunities that you never had even considered before.
yeah.
like for you and I, for me, one of my most recent, realizations from exploring potential is this podcast.
Right.
If you had said, 3 years ago, hey, Dave, you and Joe are going to have a podcast. You're going to be putting stuff on the internet for everyone to see that hopefully is reaching people in important ways and meaningful ways. I would have been like, okay. But
Right.
then I
Right.
remember I have the potential to do whatever I set my mind to.
Right. Yeah.
And now look at us. We've got over a dozen episodes that we've put together, and
Right.
that's just the beginning. And we did this because we understood that we have the potential to do whatever we put our mind to. Now, granted, it's not an HBO. I probably can't say names like that, but it's not a movie channel or something that people are gonna, subscribe to on the internet, and they just have all
Right.
this popularity and this huge mega corporation. Well, maybe it will. We don't know. There's the potential for anything.
Right.
But at this point, it we've accomplished something that we may not have even considered possible
That
or even thought
absolutely.
about, 3 years
Yeah.
ago. And now look at us. We're actually doing this thing, and this is not where it stops.
Right. Right.
It's just we're always learning, and we're applying the potential that we know we have to things that we hadn't previously considered. And that's one of the cool and fun things about potential.
Right. Yeah. I concur 100%. Absolutely. We all have the potential to be great. It's that piece of recognizing and like you said, having that ability to continue to explore the
Mhm.
possibility of what could be. And you, like you said, that is the cool thing about it. Because where does this lead? We don't know. So,
Yeah.
that's really where it started for me with, becoming a doctor, becoming an author, becoming an adjunct professor, all those things started with that potential to get there. And like you say, now we're doing a podcast. What's the next thing? We're not sure yet, but open to exploring those other opportunities. So that's about all I have on the topic. But it's been a wonderful ride, and it'll continue to be a great ride. Just exploring those opportunities to be the best version of myself.
Mhm.
So,
All right. Well, I think we've covered potential pretty good to almost its, dare I say, fullest potential. Until next time, to our listeners and viewers, keep on being your not so ordinary you.